Mama bears. All right. So what is a mama bear? I would think the general idea of a mama bear is a woman who's extremely protective over her children. And what's wrong with that? Ultimately, there should be nothing wrong with it, but you can, and I have taken it to some extremes. And I say that because I didn't really have a mama bear, and to the extreme of not having one, you've got the extreme of too much of one, as in a mother bear that reacts too quickly, judges harshly, and like, how dare you even say anything negative about my child? I will throat punch you. I've never throat punched somebody for saying something about my children.
I think well. I think I think there is at one point to throw in here, right off the bat, is that I think we make the assumption, and that term mama bear comes because a mother bear will protect her cubs. And truth is, if a bear is a mom and it's got cubs, you don't want to mess with that bear.
Or you don't want to mess with the cubs.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with the cubs. But I also think it's good to understand that mother bear is not foolish. That mother bear actually operates from God-given instinct that actually gives it wisdom. There are times, I think, when mama bear corrals her cubs and they run and they skedaddle and they get out of the way of danger. What mama bear is brilliant at is recognizing when the cubs are in danger and she must stand in the gap. Because what we don't want to say in any of this is that it's wrong to stand in the gap. That's, even Papa Bear. There is a time and a place to stand in the gap. The question is, where does wisdom come in?
And wisdom is unfortunately gained through humiliation. I have humiliated myself in regards to my mama bear instincts. And where does that come from? I don't know. I'm sure somebody could pick my brain apart in my past and all of that, but at one point I had to apologize to one of my daughter's class because I had to pick her up for a very important event. She was competing, and she was very stressed out, and there was an assignment that was due that day. At this point she was like the only one that worked on it, and then the class was laughing at her, and she came out, and I know this event we're about ready to do was a really big deal. And so I went back in the class, and yeah, anyway.
She treat her cubs.
and I laugh at it now in nervous laughter because I'm not proud of it, but I saw my little girl and she is just destroyed. She's humiliated and she's working so hard on her grades, and she just was in this position to where I felt like I needed to step in. And I didn't step in, I cannonballed in. The next day I did go back, and I sat them down and I told them, listen, what I did, how I responded, that was not right. And I humbled myself to the class. I am so sorry. I was frustrated. I hurt for my daughter, and I know how she feels about you. She loves you, and at that whatever I did, But I did say at the end, will you forgive me? That mama bear, not the apologizing part, the mama bear reaction, which is a very different word than responding, was a place of my own immaturity. That was a place of my own lack of wisdom and lack of grace, etc. I could have responded much differently, but I grew up where throat punches were okay. And I don't know about you, and if you had a lovely family that grew up with tons of wisdom and kindness and birds flying around, that's wonderful. And I think that is wonderful. But if you grew up in a different way without learning how to deal with your problems and in an effective way, because now there's a much more effective way, because something happened to one of my daughters today, Avalon, who you met, and there was a response, and it was a response to where I had to react. I didn't do anything, just so you're wondering. I thought things and I voiced things, but not to where, I don't want to say should have been directed, but it's like I went through the process, and I'm like, okay, and praise God for Jeff, and I go, there's a different way to respond to this, because I would have reacted. I reacted better today because I didn't do it in front of anyone. I out processed, and there is something to that. I mean, there is something to okay. Let me get like the instant punch. There's something to working it out. Like, okay, that probably wouldn't have been a great idea to humiliate the person who just humiliated me in a moment. That's not wise. That's not mature. That doesn't reflect Christ. But I'm a work in progress. How about you? And the thing is, I want to be a work in progress. And I go back to this story. There was this one, the pastor, great big Todd White. He told a great story about when he came to Christ, and he was doing drugs, and he came to Christ, and that night he goes and weeds it up with a bunch of his buddies and talks about Jesus. And next day he wakes up, he's all hungover. He goes back to the priest and says, not the priest, the pastor. He says, what happened? I got Jesus in my life now, and I just went and got stoned, and what happened? And the pastor's all like, well, did you ever feel bad about it before? So just because somebody has just received Christ does not mean they're walking on water. And I've got decades of junk in my closet that I am intentionally looking to clean it out. That's a difference between who I used to be and who I am now. I'm intentional about growing in these areas. And my job is to love the woman who insulted my daughter. And to rise above the situation, to have God's perspective.
Right. Well, and you just said it. We have perceptions. And yet God
perception is this, remember? Yeah. It's the only way you can see in your human vision. And
God has a perspective, and we want God's perspective. And we tend to bring three different things to moments like this. And I know this seems a little oversimplified, but it really is true. See, God gave us emotions so that we could express experience, so we could feel and know. I mean, so that something exciting can be exciting, so that something joyful can be joyful, something sad can be sad. Too often, though, if we only rely on the emotions, we act rashly, right? Well, then there are facts, and facts frame experience. But the truth about facts is you can never have all the facts.
No.
Because I can tell you in this situation, the only thing we know is the side of experience from our daughter.
One point of view,
From our daughter. We don't know the side of the experience, the other side of experience. But see, truth, this is the beautiful, truth translates experience. That's God's perspective. That is where taking a moment captive and taking it to God and saying, God, I need your perspective. When I don't know all the facts, when I don't know all the feelings, and really there's an instinctual truth, because now we're back to Mama Bear. There's is that a word, instinctual? There's an instinct in me that says defend, stand in the gap, take out all obstacles.
Well then,
and I think God you got to remember that God, that's not just human nature. God created us with this ability to stand and fight.
Well, the thing is, okay, what Jeff said earlier, there's things that I should stand and fight. If somebody is approaching my daughter to cause her physical harm, we're both probably going to be hurt pretty physically bad. That is a time to be a mama bear.
Yeah.
If you're coming to hurt my daughter physically, I'm not going to sit there and pray. I will take action. And a time not to get involved is, and really that's what my biggest flaw as a mother is. I have got in the way of my daughters learning a lesson, and for learning themselves how to defend themselves, how to speak to the situation, how to humble themselves. And her, in all reality, she should have said, you know what, I have a different perception of what's going on here. You seem upset. Show me what I can do to make this better. That's much better. And that's how she could treat this person, as if they are kind of a big deal. They are an eternal being as well. They may have made a mistake. She doesn't need to humiliate them. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here to rise above, have a different perspective, and have a good message. We have good news. The biggest deal of all says that you're kind of a big deal. So let's work through this. still kind of a mama bear. Anyway, all right, love you.
Have a
Bye.
great day.